My name is Bill Cowie. I work for the Centre for Oral Health Strategy in New South Wales. It's interesting as we talk about the skills needed for the non-dental workforce, that in parallel to this, there's the whole national accreditation and registration process which is going on. And the thing that seems to me is that this project really needs to be tied into that process as well, because if you look at people like dental therapists, for example, what they can do in each of the states varies. Len earlier mentioned that special needs was a new area. In some states that's a recognised dental specialty. It's not recognised as such in New South Wales. If you look at things like geriodontics as another example, some states would regard that as being a registrable specialist for a specialty for a dentist, but not in other states. So there's a whole range of things that the dental professions themselves will be trying to sort out over the next few years. And it seems to me a lot of the things that we're talking about here in terms of competencies should be feeding into that process as well. Then we can sort out whether it ought to be dental people or non-dental people that are doing them, but the core competencies, I think, are the important things.
The Skills Council has certainly observed the establishment of the national registration and accreditation for the health professions and for the 9 health professions. And look, I think one of the things that we can do via this project is certainly when we finish the scoping report and get to the draft competency phase, ensure that the Australian Health Practitioners Registration Agency and the staff there who are servicing the dental board have the opportunity to look at the products and reflect on them in terms of what the licensing and registration arrangements are and provide us feedback. And I think that's a really significant in that we can communicate with one board who can provide feedback nationally. So I think we'll be hopefully taking advantage of that reform via this project.
The Australian Dental Association is being consulted in this area, and actually we have some people in the audience who know more than I do. We've got our national president sitting right behind you there, and the CEO of the ADA. They might be able to tell you more exactly what's happening in this area than I know.
Graham Key from the Sydney Institute. I'm a head teacher in the vet sector. With the transition to national registration, and we are talking about increasing oral health for the workforce, the Skills Council role, the ADA talked about increasing the dental hygienist courses, for instance, and I know that's outside the Skills Council's role. As you go through, like dental prosthetists are moving across to the Australian Dental Council, does the Industry Skills Council still see a role in conjunction with these other professions, hygienists and prosthetists?
Well, look, the Skills Council, we would see a role for ourselves in response to the drivers in industry. Look, I think with the hygienist qualification, it's a bit of a unique situation where there has been one accredited course for dental hygiene at Gillies Plains, and that's been the only vocational sector course around the country. In fact, when the health training package was last reviewed, we actually asked the question, should the dental hygiene advanced diploma go into the health training package, but that didn't proceed at that stage. There's no reason why that question can't still be asked, and the stakeholders may wish to request that the Skills Council investigate that. So that question is certainly still open. So really the role of the Skills Council, and in terms of the national competencies and qualifications we produce, we are a part of the regulation of vocational education and training, which must be industry driven. So if industry and the various stakeholders request that we investigate addition of areas to the packages, then we do that, and via direct representation or via a submission to the environmental scanning process. So that question can still be opened.
My name's Rosalind Dunbar, and I'm here representing the New South Wales Dental Assistants Association. Firstly, I wanted to say to Dr. Crocombe, I salute you and your comments about the dental team. We've recently had our ADA and DAA convention in Canberra, which was a dental team, and a very progressive step. Just speaking from a dental assistant's perspective, there are a couple of comments made that dental assistants are quite young when they start and tend to not really know their job role and what they'd like to progress to. I'd like to say we're probably the most underutilised resource that the Industry Skills Council should really look at. A lot of dental assistants simply leave their positions because it's boring. If you've ever sat on a suction with a dentist day in, day out and cleaned instruments, it's very boring. I think that we have an amazing amount of knowledge, which is specifically to oral health, that certainly needs to be considered firstly. And I guess I asked the council that when you were looking at expanding, looking at using RNs, ENs, assistants in nursing, did dental assistants, and I know you need to have a fairly clear defined role between a dental assistant and a dental hygienist, and I know that that's something that needs to have a definition of who can carry out what role, but purely from a dental assistant's perspective, somebody who has worked in it even for 3, 4, 5 years would have a greater knowledge of the oral cavity than anybody else in the expanded roles that you're looking at. So I guess my question is, initially in your draft, were you looking at the expanded roles of the basic team that we do have, the amount of dental assistants and so forth that are in the community not being utilised in basic identification and diagnosing?
Thanks. I just start an answer to that and say yes, right from the beginning of the consultation process it was identified that the dental assistant workforce is one where there's the largest potential for expansion of that role or for better utilisation of that role.
Hello, my name's Jane Rossi. I'm representing the Dental Hygiene Association of Australia. I'd like to say that in April this year we were accredited by the ADC for a further 5 years, and we've recently been working on the revised training package, which was viewed by the ADC and is therefore available, and I think would be, from what I've heard from this meeting, be available for a national integration throughout the state. So, and we have had some interest in that. So I think if we are to increase the number of dental hygienists trained around Australia, then that opportunity should be made available. So it's not really a question, it's more a statement to say that the Advanced Diploma of Oral Health is certainly working with community services and health, and I think if we're to pursue that on a national basis, then ideally it would be good to see that go through the vet systems around Australia. So just a comment.
Okay.